Former WWE Superstar Ruby Riot is rumored to sign with AEW. I'm going to give you guys my opinions on this news. It was first reported by Fightful Select. Guys, very interesting stuff, but I think it's a good move for AEW, so we're going to talk about it. So, as you guys know, I've been very critical of AEW's women's division pretty much since the entirety of the division, since the beginning, since the inception of AEW. And if I'm being very honest here, AEW has to sign... They have to sign some notable females. Now, I'm not saying Ruby Riot was incredibly successful in WWE, because honestly, it was the opposite. But I don't think that was her fault. There was a lot of cool stuff that they did with her, and then they eventually drop it. And then, as you guys know, in typical WWE fashion, they pretty much just drop the ball. So, nonetheless, Sean Sapp, Fightful Select. You guys know Fightful Select is kind of like a premium... like a news thing where you can get early news. Basically, it came out today via Patreon that AEW's current plan is to have Ruby SoHo join the roster. That's right. She's going to be going by a new name. So instead of Ruby Riot, obviously due to trademarks and stuff, she'll go by Ruby SoHo. So if you guys didn't know, she was released by WWE on June 2nd. And her 90-day non-compete clause will end around August 31st. So this is actually just in time for All Out. And I'm going to explain to you guys how I would personally go about that. I should also note that Fightful did not officially confirm the news with AEW. So this is not 1,000% confirmed. However, it's been said from the time that she was released that AEW had a lot of interest in bringing her in, obviously in hopes of strengthening the division. So, when it comes to Ruby Riot, what did WWE do wrong, and how can AEW utilize her the right way? WWE does a lot of inconsistent booking, 50-50 booking. They start and stop pushes. They break up groups that are getting over, and then they pull you away from television. So when Ruby Riot was paired with the Riot Squad, a lot of people were actually excited about it because it kind of brought something different to the women's division. Of course, it was very short-lived. Then WWE kind of brought it back later on. But in the meantime, barely anything happened. And that's just kind of how WWE does things. And it's unfortunate and it sucks, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. And that's one of WWE's biggest mistakes. Now, I'm not saying AEW is perfect. They've also dropped certain angles at certain times. There's also a lack of consistency sometimes within people in the mid-card or lower card being put on TV. And I get it. They have a large roster and they only have 2 hours to fill it up. That should be improved once Rampage starts August 13th, I think. But nonetheless... AEW has a women's division that realistically is non-existent outside of Chris Statlander, Britt Baker, and Rebel, Nyla Rose, and Hikaru Shida. I think those names right there are probably the ones that stick out the most. There are obviously other females. I know Allie, the Bunny, and, you know, whatever. Thunder Rosa. But like I said, there is just a lack of... You know when you watch MJF versus Chris Jericho, this is a perfect example. When you're watching MJF versus Chris Jericho, you can see a lot of thought is being put into it. Now, when it comes to the women's division, I don't necessarily think that's the case all the time. At times, yes, but not all the time. Adding somebody like Ruby Riot gives AEW a little bit of a spark in that division. And personally, the way I would go about this is by having Ruby Riot debut at All Out, taking out Britt Baker. I think whatever the match is for Britt Baker, I think she should retain, and I think Ruby Riot immediately goes straight to the top. And I think that's how you start building out the story. She offers a very interesting look in the world of pro wrestling. I know for a fact that a lot of people have said this in the past. I've heard people say this. She fits the AEW brand. And I agree. I really do think she does. I think they're a little bit more grungy, a little bit more hardcore. And that is where I'd personally like to see Ruby Riot, not some PG watered down wrestling product. And that's just the truth. So AEW has a chance here to make a star right away by placing her with Britt Baker. And I love Britt Baker. I think Britt Baker has done a really, really good job of not only carrying the division, but she's also approved personally throughout her time in AEW. But I think it would be a really, really good move to get the people in Chicago excited about a debut that is not Daniel Bryan or CM Punk. So if I'm AEW, I put Ruby SoHo in the middle of the ring, have her take out Britt Baker and Rebel, have her take out whoever it is that Britt Baker is versing, which I think it's going to be Nyla Rose. Whoever it is, I say she takes them all out. And if you're AEW, I wouldn't mind seeing a new faction emerge with women. So this is another idea that I have. I don't know necessarily who you could put in this group. To be honest, it's going to be very difficult for me to formulate that because there's a lot of talent there, but they're not all memorable. But I would love to see Ruby Riot maybe even lead a faction, just similar to what she did with WWE. But actually allow AEW to take control and give it direction and do big things with it. Guys, this is what wrestling needs. It needs exciting elements. It needs people that are going to come in and deliver great matches, which we already know her resume on the indie scene and in WWE, it stands out. She is a fantastic worker. She's not bad on the microphone. She has an interesting look. She can be a really good character for AEW, and I would love to see more of that. I want to see more character work in AEW. Let her have a group of her own. I don't care who's in it. I don't care. You could throw literally anybody in it, and I'm all for it. I remember, you guys probably remember in the beginning of AEW, Brandy Rhodes was starting the Nightmare, whatever. I forget what it's called, but Mel shaved her head. You know, to me, it was a very weird group being put together, but also at the same time, too, I look at somebody like Mel, who is still currently signed with AEW. I don't know what her work rate level is. I don't know if she's a good wrestler. But I'm just saying it wouldn't be a bad idea for her to join Ruby SoHo or Ruby Riot. It's going to take a little bit of time to get used to the fact that she's got a name change. But guys, I'm telling you, this is great moves. AEW, keep doing it. Keep signing former WWE talent. I don't give a shit. At this point, keep doing it. Keep delivering good TV. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to beat WWE. But just keep doing what you're doing because eventually you're going to be so profitable, it doesn't really matter if WWE's around or not. There is nothing wrong with having more successful wrestling companies, and that's exactly what's going to happen. So, with that being said, I'm incredibly excited about this. If AEW brings her in, especially at All Out, I think it's going to be a really good moment for her in her career. And also, I don't know if Sarah Logan's doing anything, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to bring her in. There you go, the three names, Ruby Riot, Mel, and maybe even Sarah Logan. Let's do it. Let's do something different. Let's shake up that women's division and get people excited about it. And Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, I think somebody being taken out, I think both of them being taken out just makes a lot of sense. So AEW All Out September 5th or 6th. It's going to be a really good show. I'm excited about it. I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Take care.